Well, hi, Grace Commons. It's a time for another Commons conversation. And this is Katelyn Cano.
Cano, yep.
Cano.
It's fine.
And I'm really excited for you to get to know her. In fact, so much for us to talk about. She's already promised me we'll have a longer conversation in a podcast later on this fall. So welcome and thanks for being here today.
Of course.
Something that I just loved finding out about you when I was first getting to know you is you've written some published books. Two books. Briefly tell us about them.
The first one is a handbook for people who are the first in their family to go to college. Okay. So I'm the only one in the entire Cano family to go to college, which is
first generation, only generation that's gone to college.
For me, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And the first one in the immediate family to actually get a high school diploma as well.
Okay. Wow.
So I did all this stuff like with the help of my friends' parents and a lot of it on my own, just like Googling things. And when I was in grad school, I learned there's this massive population of people who have the exact same awful experience I did. And I have always been someone who, if I needed to figure something out, I just go teach myself because I didn't have like parents at home to help with anything. So I did like all my homework by like learning from examples in the book. I thought examples in the book were there because people like didn't have parents, but which apparently isn't true. So I was like, man, I really just want to write a book that I wish I would have had 5 years ago. So I just wrote it.
Yeah. Well, I love that idea of just trying to be a gift to other people going through something similar. So much about your story to explore later. I just loved even sort of the preparation for this moment. It's been will be the favorite part of my day. And you now work for Twitter.
Yep.
And what an interesting time to work for essentially a digital social media platform, when in some ways that's all we have to do both work and to connect and communicate. And all the other stuff that I want to explore with you, I'm just going to set aside just to talk especially about like what you've learned over time about a digital life. Like I think it's obvious, oftentimes we talk about like how bad it is and how shallow and all those kinds of things. But why don't we start with actually what's the blessing or the benefit, the goodness of a digital life if you've experienced it as a person and as a Twitter employee?
Yeah, I would say right now during the pandemic specifically, like we can communicate with people. Like my whole family's in California and all my best friends, right? So being able to contact people over Zoom or FaceTime or something like that. But it's not the same, which I know you want to get into.
In a minute,
we'll get into. And then I work as a researcher at Twitter, and we have researchers in Japan, in New York, San Francisco, and then here. So being able to talk to my team all around the world obviously is like super important and stuff like that. As a author, I'm able to like send my message of like, hey, I want to help all the college students on earth in a way that I couldn't if I was in San Francisco, I've spoken at events and stuff, which I love, hands down. And like, I love Q&A sessions where kids ask me really hard questions, But being able to like write a blog post or like even during this pandemic, a lot of students I learned from Ash, your assistant director, that they can't visit colleges right now. And I was just like, I hadn't even thought about that. So I made my whole chapter about choosing your college for free. I put it in a PDF form just because I'm like, people can't buy this, but like I want them to like have help to be able to do this.
There's a way to think about this even when you can't travel and visit.
When you can't choose which school to go to when you like want to. And then also I've just like met people on Twitter who work with first gen college students who are just like, let's talk. I love you. So one thing I was telling you earlier was someone she won this like $500 prize and she was just like, Katelyn, I don't want this. Can we just buy your books and give them away?
You're like, yes, we can.
And I was like, we can.
Absolutely.
So there's an organization in San Francisco I work with, Students Rising Above. They work with all first-gen students. A lot of them have really hard backgrounds. We bought books for their incoming class, like 75 students. They went to their like welcome retreat and they all got a copy.
So cool. So it has the possibility really of expanding your circle. And the gift you can be to others, right? And oftentimes that requires some intention. Obviously, sometimes we don't think about that beyond connecting with our family. But, working with folks in Japan, or extending the gift of helping people choose and find and get into a college is it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
There's also kind of an obvious downside, but it's also probably worth mentioning so we start recognizing it. Talk about the downside from your experience, because I know Twitter said you never have to come back.
They sent an email that's like, you're going to work from home until September, and if you don't want to come back, you don't have to. I'm like, what?
Right. I came here to work with people.
So I moved here from California in October specifically to sit with my team in person, which is funny thinking about it at this moment. And I also moved here because I had the budget to go back to San Francisco every month to see my friends and family. So the two reasons I moved here just no longer exist. Right. So all of that time that I was planning on like having coffee with people and sitting down and just like really like talking to my team, it's just gone. And it's so hard to do that over Google Hangouts or for Zoom or text or anything like that.
Right.
I have the gift of mercy, so like I feel everything in the office. So like when my coworkers are having a hard time, I'm like, hey, let's talk. And they're just
I love that you think of that as a gift. Not everyone would think that.
I used to call it the curse of mercy, but I've managed it. Now I have better spiritual boundaries, so I'm not crushed by things. But just being able to like hear from your coworker and then like check in a week later, and people are always surprised by that. Like, you remember that I told you that, right?
Right.
And I think that's just lost. And as a researcher, I bring people in who use our product to a research lab. And there's something that happens when I hand someone a cup of coffee and I walk with them down 2 floors to my lab, and I like build this rapport with them.
Right.
And over Google Hangouts, when I start to do a research session, I can't do that. So like all of the service and hospitality I'm used to relying on, I'm just like, God help me do my job. So I've been praying for stuff in this pandemic that I've never had to pray for before, because I've just always relied on hospitality and service and interaction.
I think customers. To like theologize about that for a second, we were made with bodies on purpose, right? Yeah. And God came in the flesh, right? That's the celebration. God came in the flesh to do some of the most important, both teaching and work on our behalf. And what you're discovering and naming is probably something we all have noticed. We need to continue to be kind of in the flesh people. Like there's something important about the interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, even if there's no actual, physical contact, like the sharing this space and seeing like the whole sort of body language and facial structures, and that's an important part of what it means to be a human being.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about, just very briefly, the challenge of mentoring someone right now. Could you just a couple lines about that before we close up for the day?
So Twitter matches someone when they first get hired with a buddy. So I'm currently someone's buddy. He started a couple of months ago during the pandemic, so I can't sit down with them. But usually when you have a buddy, you like walk around the office, you show them like the best food, where the best snacks are, right?
All the secrets.
All that stuff.
All the secrets.
And right now I'm just like so limited because I have no idea what he looks like from, here down.
Right.
We joke around that he has no legs,
How
which
tall
is
he?
not true.
But
we just I don't know Chris in a way that I could know Chris if I was able to sit with him in person and able to teach him in person.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Why I wanted to bring it up is it's just interesting to think about as a model for discipleship. Even like there's something really important about not just content, not just things you can share on a screen or read on a page, but as we think about being like followers of Jesus, and we think about helping others become better followers of Jesus, there's something about walking with someone where you can show them the secrets. You can introduce them to the things that they might not know and wouldn't ever know just out of a book. So thanks for sharing some of that today. Friends, we're going to have a digital life. It's never going to end, I think, at this point. But also, it's not the only kind of life we should have. And if you've not thought about it recently, we just encourage you to think about like being intentionally incarnational. with the people who are around you. You know, figuratively walk around with them and show them the secret things of life in Christ that you have discovered. Again, thanks, and have a good week.